Okay, today's Agile Nudge is all about refinement. And the way we do it, now often I see teams go into sprint planning and they have the user story cards, we've got a few here, and they already have the points on, so you've already sized them, you've already estimated them. But I want to talk about what we can do in refinement to give us greater clarity so we have a shared understanding so that these stories meet definition of done before we go into sprint planning. And we've got the poker cards here, the planning poker cards. I'm going to challenge us all now because they're called planning poker cards, not refinement poker cards. And I believe that planning poker should happen within planning. Of course, what we do need to know is this small enough to go into a sprint? So if you know the invest mnemonic, we're all familiar with invest here?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it needs to be independent, negotiable, valuable, so for value to the customer, estimable, not estimated, small and testable. So as long as we meet definition ready and this invest criteria, and we know it's small, then we should be satisfied that we can go into the deep discussion of what it is the business wants during sprint planning. Anyway, this nudge is about refinement. The Scrum Guide tells us that we should do around up to 10% of our time on sprint planning. When I look this little calendar I've got here of the sprint, starting with sprint planning here, which for a 2-week sprint would usually be about 4 hours. Review, normally 2 hours, retrospective, 90 minutes. And then we've got the daily scrum, time box of 15 minutes per day. That, in total, takes up 12.5%, slightly less than 12.5% for a 2-week sprint. And then what I've done in the past, when you've seen my scrum intent, I just say there's refinement in here, and it's about 10%. Work it out for yourself. But I've found often that we have a problem. How do we do this? And in the end, most teams just do an hour here and an hour there, and they go into sprint planning ill-equipped to understand what it is the business wants, and you don't have a shared understanding. So I've got a model here I'd like to experiment with, and let's see if it makes a difference with the teams that work with it and get your feedback. So let's just try it out. The first thing is, I believe, and which what we're going to do today is, product owner, you want to set the scene. So we have one session together with the whole team, and you say, with the BA, because you work with the BA looking towards the future, behind us we've got a poster, you can't see it on the video, this is what the release is looking like, this is what the next few sprints are looking like. It gives you visibility, because if you can only see a sprint ahead, it's like driving on a foggy road. You're not going to be going at maximum speed. If it's a clear day, you can go at the speed limit. So this is like big picture. These are the stories, this is the way it's going to look at, and probably, if we were to do a matrix, this is a current sprint, plus 1, plus 2, these are probably the product backlog items we're going to pull in. May change, but this is the thing we should look at. So this, high level, and everyone gets to see the big picture. The next thing is called the 3 amigos. Has anyone ever heard of that here?
Yes.
Great. So what my recommendation is, and this is my idea, I don't know anyone else who does it. Every day you've got the daily scrum, which is 15 minutes long. During the daily scrum, agree amongst yourselves to select 3 amigos. So let's say in this case, Kirsty the tester, maybe the product owner comes along, maybe the BA, but it could be a developer, it could be anybody, but it's 3 people. You spend 45 minutes or less, and you pick out one of the cards on the backlog, and you slice it, you refine it, you see if it meets definition already, you see if it meets invest. You may have some questions that you need to go to other people to ask, so you leave question marks, you work on the acceptance criteria. You get it on a physical card, because before then it may have been on the virtual board in Jira, which is, we need to do that, but for the sprint itself we want to have a physical card. So every single day you do that. So the first 3 amigos here, then go to the next daily scrum and give a quick update. This is what we've done with this story. We think it now makes definition already, or we have these questions, product owner. Then the next day, another 3 people, all the same, the next day and the next day, and so on. And then you get to the end, and then before the sprint review, maybe while you're just refining and agreeing who's going to present at the review, you just say, this looks like the backlog. Then in the sprint review, you then present your intent as product owner to what the team will pull in next time. Of course, refinement isn't just about slicing stories. There's other things we can do. So depending on when it is appropriate, you might want to do affinity estimating. This is where you get the entire backlog, maybe 1,000 points for the next 6 months worth of work, and you get the whole team to a very high level, just point it out. And that's a technique, if you've not used before, I'd like to help you with. Maybe there's some roadmap maybe there's some deep dive in a certain feature that's coming up in future, or a certain partner that we want to work with. And you can work that out ad hoc, so you'd have these little things in here. In general, it should ideally be no larger than 10%, and certainly no less than 5%. So you should, if the more time you spend on this refinement, it will make your life easier here. It means you have a shared understanding, and this is the rub of it. It means when you actually do the work, you know why you're doing the work, you know collectively what you're doing. It means you're not doing ineffective work, stuff that people don't need, and it means you can get into that state of flow and just code. And this is things like this which is going to really rocket up our output and our productivity. So I think we should think of refinement as just a family of activities that's encompassing everything that we need to do to understand what we're doing beyond the next sprint. It's not just the stories for the next sprint. We're going to go into a Q&A now, but for the Agile Nudge, I hope this was helpful. Stay tuned. Thank you.